Hey guys, Space Guru 5 here. Today I'll be doing something different. Normally I'd be doing a commentary of some sort, or I'd be posting some of my own music. However, I decided to twist things up by actually reviewing a piece of music. I've combed through decades of music history and have garnered a catalog of literally thousands of songs. Some of them are things that I listened to avidly during my high school years. Many others are ones I discovered through my multiple journeys through the Billboard Hot 100. Still others were ones that I discovered exclusively through Spotify's recommendations. The album I'll be covering today fits in none of these categories, and I'll explain how I came across it near the end of this video. I present to you, Oh No, It's DEVO by the band DEVO, released on the 21st of October 1982. God, I love that title. The idea behind DEVO started as a joke between Bob Lewis and Gerald Cazale. Both of them were art students at Kent State University during the turn of the 1970s. At the expense of the bad art of their fellow students, they joked about human devolution. Lewis and Cazale met a student named Mark Mothersbaugh in 1970, and Mothersbaugh brought in a more humorous feel to the burgeoning idea. He even presented his new friends with a character he called Jocko Homo. This character would actually go on to be the inspiration for a single off of their first album, but we'll get to that. When the Kent State Massacre occurred on the 4th of May in 1970, they realized that, in their own words, the joke had become real. As a fun fact, Gerald Cazale actually knew Jeffrey Miller and Alison Krauss, both of whom died in the shooting. DEVO formed just a few years later in 1973. Their name was a shortening of the word devolution, and it defined their ethos from that point onwards, even as their lineup changed. They would go on to release a total of 9 studio albums, adopting a new, ridiculous look for each album that satirized conformity and dress codes. They also adopted a mascot that they named Bougie Boy. No, not Bougie, Bougie. Had their own label named Bougie Boy Records, and tended to refer to fans and themselves as Spuds. Their initial run saw the releases of Are We Not Men? We Are DEVO in 1978, Duty Now for the Future in 1979, Freedom of Choice in 1980, New Traditionalists in 1981, Oh No, It's DEVO in 1982, and Shout in 1984. Each album presents us with a different sound, with the band leaning more heavily on synthesizers with each progressive album. Freedom of Choice contains the song Whip It, which to the public at large is the only song the band is known for, having peaked in the top 20 in 1980. Despite the song's success, many people failed to understand what the song was about. For the record, it's a commentary on America's cultural violence and conformity while also demonstrating the power of positive thinking. The song was actually meant to be for Jimmy Carter. The band's disappointment with this, and the label's consequent demands for them to make another Whip It, became a theme in their next few albums. This will be important when I get into Oh No It's DEVO. The band went on hiatus shortly after the release of Shout. Longtime drummer Alan Myers left, citing creative unfulfillment, and following the critical and commercial failure of Shout, Warner dropped them from their label. DEVO would return with a new lineup in 1986 and release 2 more studio albums, Total DEVO in 1988 and Smooth Noodle Maps in 1990, both of which were also critical flops, before going on hiatus once again. Mark Mothersbaugh would go on to produce and compose music for various TV shows and video games throughout the next few decades. Some notable examples include the cartoon Rugrats and the video game series Crash Bandicoot. As an additional fun fact, the appearance of the character Chucky Finster in Rugrats was actually based on Mothersbaugh himself. DEVO would eventually reunite in 1996 and mainly relegate themselves as a live act, although there were growing demands for them to release another album. In 2010, their latest studio album, Something for Everybody, saw them signed under Warner once again, and the album was generally well received. However, the subsequent deaths of Alan Myers in 2013 and Bob Cazale in 2014 leave us with the question of whether or not DEVO will release another album again. In any case, DEVO have made their mark on music history as a strange but influential new wave band with deep messages and blatant technological and musical skills. Today I'll be doing a track-by-track review of the album Oh No It's DEVO, since it, in my opinion, perfectly encapsulates the pinnacle of their musical talents, subversive lyrics, and atypical songwriting, all while presenting relentlessly catchy riffs and hooks. It also helps tremendously that it was produced by Roy Thomas Baker, who produced albums for Queen, The Cars, Foreigner, Journey, and more beforehand. As a bonus fun fact, the album's title is a reference to what Mothersbaugh figured many people's reactions were to either new DEVO albums or learning that DEVO was still together. Anyway, enough with the build-up, let's get on with the actual review. The opening song, Time Out for Fun, pokes fun at American working class life and healthcare. Yes, you'll be surprised to know that working class struggles were the same back in the early 1980s as they are today. That might be a thing. Here, DEVO reminds us to take some time to have fun in the face of this crazy, messed up society we created. Highlighted aspects include giving up your best years, so your life has just begun, to the 9-to-5 slog, only to wind up broken and unable to enjoy life later on. Somebody else is saying that it's done. Lines like, "Take this, you've just been had," and "Something's funny at your expense again" are given to us as if from someone who is well acquainted with this system. What's interesting is that DEVO posits no solutions here. They don't present us with any political ideologies that would fix these problems. They just remind us to enjoy whatever time we can before it's all over. It's as if the band is telling us that there's nothing else we can really do about it, since we don't really have as much power. I like that philosophy quite a bit. Weirdly enough, this song also sets up the world in which this album takes place, as if the album is giving us snapshots of this funhouse mirror reflection of our world. It's strangely effective that way.
Time out for fun. Time out for fun. So you're living under the gun. Circumstances have you on the run. A doctor frowns, you feel bad. Take this, you've just been had. Don't you lose it, now listen to us.
The second song, Peekaboo, is the closest DEVO comes to stating their main message in song form. Here they highlight the dark side of humanity that we all tend to hide, all the while poking fun at the devolution of humanity. In the chorus, we even hear the singer laughing at us. The most salient lyrics describing these central themes are, "The way that we were is what we'll become," and "If you cannot see it, you think it's not there, it doesn't work that way." But the singer is by no means some grand pontificator. He's not trying to change any one of us, he is one of us, and he understands humanity very well. This is demonstrated with the lyric, "I know what you do, 'cause I do it too." It's a lucid track with a very infectious, goofy sound, almost as if we're hearing it performed by circus clowns. We'll come back to that later.
So put your hands on your face and cover up your eyes. Don't look until I signal. Peekaboo! Peekaboo!
The third song, Out of Sync, describes a fictional woman who is completely out of sync with the world around her, yet she doesn't seem to have the presence of mind to care, or even notice for that matter. The people around her sense that there's something wrong with her, but none of them can help her because, as the song says, she'll run out of time before she accepts she's out of sync. To add to the themes, the song itself is also out of sync. The main musical phrase is 3 bars long, as opposed to the usual 2 or 4, and it begins on the offbeat rather than on the beat. The chorus is the only segment with 4-bar phrases. Despite these musical oddities, the song is a completely cohesive and catchy piece. I found myself listening to this song the most.
She's out of sync, and everyone around her knows that something is wrong. She's out of sync, she's got all the symptoms of a girl who's skipped a beat. She's out of sync, a piece of ancient history. She's a walking mirage. She's out of sync, she entered through the exit and never stopped to think.
The fourth song, Explosions, contains digs at fans who failed to see DEVO beyond their eccentric imagery and presentation. This is a continuation of a theme seen in the song Through Being Cool, which opens the new Traditionalist album, but with more direct disses. The chorus mocks the superficial viewers, ending with the line, "There's nothing more than what you know," which is the band essentially calling these viewers ignorant. Later in the song, we also get the line, "We like ideas we thought you understood." The whole album, especially this song in particular, was a response to critics calling them fascists and clowns, as well as fans and record labels who were just expecting them to make more songs like Whip It, all of whom failed to really understand what DEVO were trying to convey with that song. DEVO makes it clear that they'll do whatever they want, regardless of whether or not people like it, because, as the song states, we like explosions that leave you feeling good, we like ideas that change the world for good, and we do like music when it does what it should do.
There's nothing has to stop and go. There's nothing but the ebb and flow. There's nothing like some in and out. There's nothing more than what you know.
The fifth song, That's Good, is complimentary to Peekaboo, but getting away from the crazy funhouse vibes given by the earlier song. It's a commentary on hedonistic living, where pleasure is sought and obtained without any regard for the consequences. In a way, we also saw a similar theme shown in Out of Sync. The line "that's good" is repeated throughout as a sharp retort to any concerns about this sort of lifestyle, almost as if done sarcastically. It's not explicitly stated what the good thing is, but this is intentional. It leaves us with the question of, how do we know that what we're seeking is good if we don't even know what we're seeking, or for that matter, why everyone's seeking it? You could also argue that it's meant to stand in for any ideal that humanity wishes to obtain at any cost whatsoever. The song ends abruptly on a weird note and in the middle of the musical phrase, which you could interpret as a sudden realization that the pleasures of hedonism are ultimately meaningless. But at that point, the song's over, so you have to go back now.
Everybody's looking for the same thing. Ain't it true? It's just a doubt. There's some things that you can't do without, and that's good. Ain't it true? The sun that shines. You're right, you're...
The sixth song, Patterns, is about the predictability of human behavior. Interestingly, it gives us relatively more acoustic sounds than the rest of the album. The song asserts that, despite the nuances between them, humanity follows patterns that have remained constant and repetitive and will continue to do so. That is, we are all subject to the same follies no matter how far we progress as a society. Rather than choosing a grim sound, however, DEVO opts for a rather soothing sound, as if to say there's comfort to be found in all of this. After all, as the lyrics say, in this land where stability is hard to find, you can rearrange the patterns so unkind.
Patterns unfamiliar, patterns lead you through to patterns of discovery, tracing out the clues. Can you recognize the patterns that you find stuck in your mind?
The seventh song, Big Mess, was inspired by a letter sent to a radio station. It's all about a guy who calls himself Cowboy Kim and does a stupid show on the radio. The man admits to being a big mess, and it's implied that the Cowboy Kim persona is meant to provide a momentary escapism, something many of us are very likely to relate to, although he has a significant other whom he wishes to remain ignorant of his double life. To my knowledge, the letter was derived verbatim into the song's lyrics. As a heads up, this won't be the only time a letter is turned into a song here.
I'm a man with a mission, a boy with a gun. I got a picture in my pocket of the lucky one. Who doesn't know? I'm a big man. I mean a really big man. A big man.
The eighth song, Speed Racer, is the weakest track on the album. It provides jabs at varying aspects of society as one would expect, but it isn't as cleverly executed as we've seen with the other tracks. I like the song just fine, but it's unfortunate that it wasn't as good as it could have been. Here we see caricatures of a race car driver, a pirate, a Barbie doll, and a doctor. There's honestly not much else to say about it, although the doctor was first mentioned in the album opener Time Out for Fun.
I'm a speed racer and I drive real fast. I'm your doctor and here's the bill. I drive real fast, I'm gonna last.
The ninth song, What I Must Do, is about a person who is unable to resist acting on impulse, despite knowing that it won't end well, after living an otherwise reasonable life. This is a nice callback to the album's overall themes, and helps make it a cohesive listening experience. It posits an interesting question. Why do you think that a man jumps out of the frying pan into the fire when he can find a way not to get burned? But like all the other ponderings presented in the album, there are no answers given. Things are just the way they are. I view this song as the band poking fun at people who do stupid things despite otherwise knowing better. The penultimate song, I Desire, is a verbatim transcript of a love letter sent by John Hinckley Jr. to actress Jodie Foster. For those who are unfamiliar, John Hinckley Jr. became obsessed with Jodie Foster after seeing her in the movie Taxi Driver, and his obsession was ultimately what led him to try to assassinate incumbent President Ronald Reagan in 1981. That was only a year before this album was released, and so the letter's appearance here made this song especially controversial. Mark Mothersbaugh even admitted later that this was a mistake, and that the FBI itself threatened the band after the album's release. My guess here is that this letter was included to add to the album's ever-present themes, although the real-life consequences of this song are a stark reminder that sometimes art can imitate life a little too closely. Personally, I think the song captures the creepy nature of the love letter, especially knowing the backstory behind it.
I desire your attention. I desire your perfect love. I desire nothing more than this.
The closing song, Deep Sleep, details a person who uses sleep to escape from reality, despite the nightmares and lack of control they have during the sleep. We're presented with surreal sounds and imagery, such as a smile being just a frown turned around in the face of a clown with a mean streak. One could take a Freudian approach and infer that this person has major paranoid tendencies, thinking that everyone is secretly maligned against them, which may be the cause of their sleeping habits. Nobody presents them with this analysis, however, and so they are doomed to eventually succumb to their inner demons, which here takes the form of being trapped in the deep sleep at the very end, perhaps symbolizing death. This could perhaps be a metaphor for how humanity itself may face a similar fate, unless somebody can wake us up. It's a very sobering track to me, and I don't think the album could have ended any better than with this song.
I've been walking in a deep sleep, sleepwalking, but I just woke up from a deep sleep, a very deep sleep. I've been running on remote control in a deep sleep, a very deep sleep. I woke the moment I was.
So that's Oh No, It's DEVO. I found it to be a very fun listening experience, and I consider it essential listening if you're really into new wave and synthpop. I've lost count of how many times I've played the album in its entirety. I actually stumbled across it by chance when I was reading up on the 1981 Reagan assassination attempt. I found out that one of John Hinckley Jr.'s love letters became a DEVO song, and I went to check out the associated album on Spotify the same evening. I immediately fell in love, and that's what got me to look deeper into DEVO's history and discography. Coupled with real-life events in 2020, it also led to me creating an SEC group called the Spuds, with Peekaboo being the defining ethos of the group. So while DEVO's increased reliance on synthesizers alienated fans of their previous work, it produced some of the best music from the 1980s that I have ever had the pleasure of hearing. And yes, that is one hell of a statement for me to make. That's about it for today, folks. I'm Space Guru 5, and as always, take care.
Can't do without, and that's good.
Sexy.
Ain't it true? The sun that shines, you got yours and you got mine, and that's good.
Here I lie on my deathbed, recalling things said as my world slips away.
And tended to refer to fans and themselves as Spuds. What is it, Peanut? I don't know if that picked up in the recording. Freedom of Choice contains the song Whip It, which to the public at large is the only song the band is known for. What is it, Peanut?